from the Nazi Party. The Nazi Party was one of the many right-wing parties formed by the die-hard reactionaries who supported the Kaiser's rule but hated the Democratic Republic. Many of the right-wing parties collapsed in the 1920s, but the Nazi Party was an exception. Under the brilliant leadership of Adolf Hitler, it grew as an important political party. The self-willed child, Hitler was born in 1899 in the family of the petty Austrian customs official. Hitler's mother spoiled him very much at school. Hitler was an undistinguished boy. After unsuccessful attempts to become a student of art in the Vienna College of Fine Arts, he had tried many jobs, working all the time as a manual laborer. Hitler was deeply dissatisfied. The Jews were very prominent in the cultivated society of Vienna. Hitler hated the Jews for occupying the high position in German society. In the meantime, he became the convert to Nazism, doting on the qualities of the proud German nation. During the First World War, Hitler served in the German army. He fought bravely and became a corporal until he was wounded and was temporarily blind. He was awarded an Iron Cross for his bravery. While he was staying in hospital recovering from his wounds, he heard of the German defeat. He believed that German defeat was due to the betrayal of socialists who had made the November Revolution. So he hated the socialist-dominated republic. When he was discarding from the hospital, he found himself, like many of his comrades, unemployed like them. He joined one of the semi-military, semi-political organizations, the German Workers' Party. By the 1920s, the German Workers' Party changed its name to the National Socialist German Working Men Party, abbreviated as Nazi. The party had its headquarters at Munich. By his skill as an orator, organizer, Hitler became the Führer, leader of the party in 1921. The party adopted an emblem, the Avastika, a salute and greeting, as its distinctive characteristics. It had a newspaper through which Hitler fiercely denounced the Treaty of Versailles and the socialists who had, he believed, delivered as a stab in the back to Germany. By making strike in 1918, Hitler also organized the stormtroopers, a say of the brown shirts, to protect the Nazi meeting and disrupt the meeting of other parties, of example, the Communist Party. During the French occupation of the rule, the Nazists gained new and increased strength by denouncing the Versailles Treaty in November 1923. Hitler and his essay, joined by Langer, a former chief of staff, and other militant reactionaries, tried to overthrow the Weimar Republic. They carried out a cup of deed in Munich. The Bavarian government suppressed them. In April 1924, Hitler was put on trial and was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment at Landsberg, but he was released 9 months later. This was typical of the leniency and Weimar Republic showed to the right-wing people. Nazi philosophy. While in prison, Hitler laid down the basic ideas behind the Nazi movement in his book Mein Kampf, My Struggle. Hitler divided mankind into two groups: the Aryans, the master race, and the non-Aryans, the slave races. The Germans, he asserted, were Aryans and distinct to the world. But Germany was defeated in the First World War, so Hitler had to find scapegoat, the Jews. He said that the Jews were the most vicious of the slave races. They caused the German defeat by encouraging the socialists to make the November Revolution in 1918. Hitler suggested if Germans wanted their nation to be strong again, they had to be believe in the Führer, Hitler himself. The Führer would exterminate the expel and the Jews from Germany so that they would not pollute the German blood by intermarriage. Then he would replace the parliamentary government by Nazi rule, the rule of elite who accepted order from Hitler alone. The Nazi would nationalize a big business, provide employment for all workers, employment, land reforms for peasants, and destroy the chains of department stores controlled by the Jewish capitalists. They would also try to make Germany economically self-sufficient, but German economic self-sufficiency could only be obtained by consequent abroad. The Nazi government aimed to abolish the Treaty of Versailles, bring about the union of all Germans in a single German state, the Großdeutschland, and in order to provide for additional living space for the nourishment of the future generations, Lebensraum, Hitler proposed to counter Eastern Europe growth of Nazi Party. With a party of program which appealed to all Germans, the Nazi took part in the national elections in times of economic prosperity. In the 20s, Nazis would make little headway in the election of May 1924. Only 32 Nazis were elected to the Reichstag. In December 1924, the number dropped to 14. Despite in the poor election results, the Nazi Party still showed a steady growth in these years. In 1929, the total party membership was 1,78,000, quite a considerable increase over 1925 figure, which stood at 27,000. In the meantime, the Nazis began to have financial support from the big industrialists like Thyssen and Stens, as they saw that the Nazis were anti-socialist and anti-communist. Hitler also strengthened his control of the party by forming his personal bodyguard and black shirts, the SS or the protection squads. The Great Depression of 1929 and October 1929, the Euro stock market suddenly collapsed. The American investors recalled their short-term loans from Germany. In early 1931, one of the Germany's three largest joint stock banks collapsed. The German economy depended on American loans. Without American loans, production dropped by her export trade also declined. The number of unemployed rose from 2 million in 1929 to then 3 million in 1930 to 5.6 millions in 1931 and to 6 millions, one-fourth of the working population in the early months of 1932. The German government from 1929 to 1933 failed to solve any of the grave economic problem of the day: mass employment, inflation, and industrial slums. Faced with economic hardship, the Germans lost any faith they might have in the democratic republic. The middle classes and working classes were the most discontent groups because they had been ruined by two economic collapses within 6 years. It was not surprising that they turned into two extreme parties for desperate remedies: the Nazis and the Communists. In the general election of September 1913, the Nazis won 6.5 million votes, took 107 seats in Reichstag, and became the second largest party in the country. The Communists obtained 4.5 million votes and 77 seats. Although the Social Democrats remained the largest party, it had lost much popularity and support. Since the Republican coalition, the Social Democrats, Catholic centrists, and Democrats could not command a major in rehearsing by Dr. Browning, a member of the Catholic Ncert Party, the councillor of 1932 could be only ruled by issuing emergency decrees. His unconstitutional and undemocratic rule made his government increasingly unpopular. The unpopularity of the government was shown in the presidential election April 1932, the Republican coalition put forward Hindenburg. He was re-elected with 19 million votes, but Hitler, who also entered himself for election, won 13.5 million votes. So it may not be far from truth by saying that at least 40% of the German people were more willing to support Hitler than the Republican government Hindenburg blamed.